now releasing all goblins.
This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. With free weekly content and free shipping over $100, you can save 5% site-wide by using the promo code MTGMudsta. I'm also sponsored by Face to Face Games, Canada's premier Magic the Gathering store. Using the promo code MTGMudsta will get you 5% off site-wide, with eligible orders getting free shipping Canada-wide. If you're looking for a direct way to help the channel, please consider joining my Patreon and becoming a member of the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game was filmed in my studio, and we have Jodah rejoining us playing Kynaios Tiro. He keeps an Ondu Inversion, Guildless Commons, Shivan Reef, Simic Growth Chamber, Horn of Greed, Tatiova Benthic Druid, and Hollowed Fountain. Matt is playing Myra the Magnificent, keeping Reliquary Tower, Island, Twitch, Is It Signet, Dragon Fodder, and Talisman of Creativity. Dom has sleeved up a Tana and Yoshimaru deck, keeping Arid Mesa, Taiga, Cinder Glade, Wooded Foothills, Flaming Fist, Kadam of the West Tree, and Guardian Project. I've sleeved up my newly made Jodah Backgrounds deck, keeping Flooded Strand, Livin' Cultist of Tiamat, Faebro Elder, Rugged Prairie, Fierce Guardianship, Scion of Hallister, and a Soul Ring. Jodah wins the die roll and starts us off. He draws and plays a Shivan Reef. Matt just plays an island and passes. Dom plays an Arid Mesa and cracks it, losing 1 for Temple Garden, shocking himself for 2. He then pays the 1 white for Yoshimaru and passes to me. I draw and play a Rugged Prairie, casting Soul Ring and passing. Jodah has a Hollowed Fountain for turn, which he has come in untapped and takes 2. He then casts a Walking Atlas, passing. Matt plays a Cascade Bless for turn and taps 2 for an Is It Signet. Dom draws and plays a Wooded Foothills, cracking that for another Shockland. He then moves to combat, swinging Yoshimaru at me for 1, and then moves to his second main phase. He casts the Ozolith before passing to me. I draw and play a Flooded Strand, cracking it. I wrongly grab an Overgrown Tomb instead of Temple Garden, which I can't do with a Flooded Strand, and I pass after that. Jodah draws and floats 2 mana. He then plays a Simic Growth Chamber, bouncing a Shivan Reef. He then activates the Walking Atlas, putting the Reef back into play, and then taps enough to cast Horn of Greed, and passes. Matt draws and plays a War Room. He then casts Myra and passes. Dom plays a Taiga and is able to cast a Kadam of the West Tree, putting a counter onto Yoshimaru. Going to combat, he swings the Pupper at Jodah for 3, getting to find a land off Kadama. He passes after that. I draw and play a Glacial Fortress, drawing up the Horn of Greed and having the land come in untapped because I thought I grabbed a Temple Garden. I then cast a Faebro Elder and pass for turn. Jodah draws and plays a Tireless Tracker. He then floats a blue off the Hollowed Fountain, and then plays Guildless Commons, bouncing it to his hand and drawing a card from the Horn of Greed. He then activates the Atlas to put the Hollowed Fountain back into play, making a clue and shocking himself for 2 so it comes in untapped. After that, he casts a Felwar Stone and passes. Matt draws and plays a mountain in his main phase, drawing again from the Horn trigger. He then plays a Ledger Shredder and casts Dragon Fodder, looting with the Shredder and making an attraction with Myra. He gets a Merry-Go-Round, and the Ledger Shredder also gets a counter as he discards a Chain Reaction from the Connive trigger. He passes after that. Dom draws and plays a Forest, drawing again. He casts Kelith, Sunmare Familiar, and then a Flaming Fist, putting 2+1/+1 counters onto Yoshimaru and triggering Matt's Ledger Shredder. Going to combat, he swings Yoshimaru at Matt, dealing 5 with Double Strike, and Matt takes the full hit. Dom then triggers Kadama twice, finding 2 lands, and with all that done, he passes to me. I draw and play a Hinterland Harbor, and then draw again. I then tap enough for Jodah, passing after that. Jalbel draws and plays a Lotus Cobra. He then plays a Tangled Veil, drawing a card, making a clue, and getting a mana from the Lotus Cobra, but he doesn't use it, and just passes instead. Matt draws, and activates Myra to put Dragon Fodder underneath the merry-go-round. He then casts Twitch, and opens a Pika-Beeble, and then gets to roll for his attractions. He gets a 6, which triggers them both, making some treasures, making some goblins, and giving his creatures horsemanship. Matt then casts a Barbarian class, and passes after that. Dom draws for turn, and plays a Cinder Glade, drawing again. He casts a Jessica's Will, targeting me, and exiles his top 3, and makes 7 red. He casts Raised by Giants, and Chalet from the exiled cards. Going to combat, he swings Yoshimaru at Matt, which kills him with commander damage. After that, Dom passes turn. I draw for turn, and play a Serra's Sanctum, drawing again. I cast my own Raised by Giants, and get my legendary Cascade from Jodah, cascading into Candlekeep Sage. I follow up with a Gamble, which finds me a card to put to hand, and I then discard a Swamp. I cast a Levan, which cascades into Ketis, Emberclaw Familiar. I then play a Sign of Halaster, cascading into Cultist of the Absolute. Going to combat, I swing Jodah at Jalbel for 18 in the air. With my commander connecting, Ketis deals 18 to Dom as well, and I pass after that. Jalbel draws and plays a Forest, drawing another card. He then cracks a Clue, drawing, and casts Ondu Inversion, and I begrudgingly accept instead of countering it because I can't really deal with Dom right now. The board gets wiped clean, and after that, Jalbel passes. Dom draws and plays Guardian Project, and then recasts Yoshimaru, drawing a card as it enters from the Guardian Project. After that, he passes to me. My turn has me drawing, playing a Bloom Tender, playing a Reflecting Pool as my land for turn, and then casting Sithis before passing. Jalbel draws, and casts a main phase Explorer. He draws, but doesn't hit a land though. And he plays Scaled Herbalist, and then Kynaios Tiro. He moves to his end step, and Dom and I choose to draw, while Jalbel draws and plays a Boros Garrison, which bounces a land back to his hand. Dom draws and plays Purphoros, God of the Forge. He then casts Tana, dealing 2 to each of us as Purphoros sees his commander come in. He passes after that. My turn has a Force coming in, and I cast Enchantress's Presence, drawing a card and gaining 1 from Sithis. I then recast Jodah, passing back to Jalbel. Jalbel draws and plays Tatyova, and then plays the Boros Garrison, and bounces it back to his hand, drawing 1 and gaining 1. He then does this again by tapping the Scaled Herbalist to put out the Boros Garrison and bounce it back to his hand. And then plays a Dryad of the Ilsean Grove. He now has a second land drop, and he plays a Copperline Gorge, which comes in tapped, triggering Tatyova again, letting him draw a card and gain 1 life. Moving to his end step, the King's trigger, and Dom and I draw a card, and Jalbel gets to draw as well, and gets to put out a Jetmir's Garden as his land drop. He passes after that. Dom draws and plays an Orin Frostfang, drawing a card from the Guardian Project and dealing 2 to us with Purphoros. He then plays a Canopy Vista, and then an Avacyn's Pilgrim, dealing another 2. Moving to combat, he swings both Yoshimaru and Tana at Jalbel, with Jalbel throwing Kynaios Tiro in front of Yoshimaru. The Kings die from Death Touch, and Jalbel takes 2 from Tana. This makes him 2 tokens, and Jalbel and I take 4 from the Purphoros triggers. With nothing else, Dom passes. I cast an Enlightened Tutor on my upkeep for Thassa, God of the Sea, and then draw it for turn. I then tap the Bloom Tender to cast Thassa, and cascade into a Noble Heritage. I draw 4 total from my Enchantress triggers, and follow it up with a Sword Coast Sailor, drawing another 2. I then cast Replenish, returning all of my backgrounds to the battlefield. And once that's resolved, cast an Idyllic Tutor, going to find Opalescence. I cast Opalescence, which makes all of my backgrounds into creatures, but more importantly, legendary creatures, which buff Jodah. I then go to combat, and I swing enough damage with Jodah at Dom to try and take him out. Dom attempts to cast a Teferi's Protection, but I'm ready with Fierce Guardianship to counter it. Dom then takes the lethal commander damage, and I pass after that. Jalbel draws and plays a Nesting Dragon. He then plays and bounces the Boros Garrison again, and then plays a Steam Vents as a second land drop, drawing 2 and gaining a total of 2, plus making 2 eggs from the dragon. With the Steam Vents coming in, he has it come in untapped, taking 2. Jalbel then activates a Scaled Herbalist, putting in a command tower and getting his landfall triggers again. Jalbel then follows up with the Rites of Flourishing, and then plays Obro as another land drop, drawing a card, gaining a life, and making an egg. He passes after that. I scry 1 to the bottom thanks to Thassa, and sacrifice Candlekeep Sage to the Cultist of the Absolute, and then draw for turn. I then play an island, and cast Swiftfoot Boots, moving to equip it onto Jodah once they resolve. Jalbel responds by casting Swords to Plowshares, and targets Jodah, and I respond with a hard-casted Force of Will. This counters the removal, and I then tap the Bloom Tender to cast Arcane Signet, and then Street Urchin. Jalbel responds by casting Wear and Tear, and targets Opalescence and the Swiftfoot Boots. But after some quick math, he still realizes he can't stop a lethal Jodah swing, and scoops it up to me. Game review time! So outside of 2 early misplays with lands, I think the Jodah deck did pretty well. In hindsight, I probably should have grabbed one of the Triomes or one of the new Capenna lands, because that would have fixed all of my problems. I enjoy the randomness of the Cascade part of Jodah, and casting one background to likely get into another one is always a lot of fun. We didn't get to see much of Matt's Myra the Magnificent deck, and I don't know, I'm not super into attractions, but if that's your cup of tea, I'm happy for you. For me, it just seems like one extra thing that I have to track and potentially misplay, so I'm not in any rush to build one. That being said, we didn't get to really see very much outside of the 2 attractions, so hopefully he gets to play it again in the future. You may have noticed that Jalbel was playing his deck out of a deck box, out of a fat pack, and that's because he's triple sleeved his deck and has them in top loaders. Why? Well, I'm not entirely sure. I think it started as a joke and kinda spiraled out of there. But his landfall deck was turning out some serious value as lands were coming in, although not enough to stop him from dying to commander damage. Dom's Tana and Yoshimaru deck was really fun, and I'm actually considering putting Yoshimaru into Jodah just because of how many other legendary spells I have. He also played some sweet backgrounds as well, which was fun to see, and that Flaming Fist in Yoshimaru was very dangerous. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.